Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome from Northwestern University. My name is Fritz Burgher. I'm an assistant director of admission here. I'm currently in Chicago weathering the snow we are receiving here right now. Been quite the winter here in the Windy City, but really excited to be connecting with you all on this President's Day Monday. Like I said, I'm an assistant director of admission. This is going to be my 5th year in the office here at Northwestern, but I also graduated from the institution back in 2014 from the Medill School of Journalism, where I majored in journalism and then also minored in political science and received our integrated marketing communication certificate. Today, though, it's not just going to be me. I'm joined by a current student who's going to be co-presenting with me this afternoon. So I'm going to toss it over to her to give her little intro.
Thank you, Fritz. So hi, everyone. My name is Ann Hardy, and I am from Oxford, Mississippi. I'm a senior studying mechanical engineering with a certificate in manufacturing and an emphasis in design. And with my major, I'm really interested in exploring that full range of product development. I have absolutely loved my experience and the community that I found at Northwestern, specifically in the Society for Engineering, for Women in Engineering, but also in Books and Breakfast, which is a program where I tutor kiddos in the Evanston Public Schools 3 mornings a week, and it is simply adorable. I am just so excited to be here and talk to you all about Northwestern.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Anne. So for the session today, we're going to spend about an hour covering all there is kind of to know about Northwestern from a broad perspective. So we're going to spend kind of the first half of the time really talking about the academics, the course offerings, the real kind of structures of Northwestern. And then we're going to transition more into community and the admissions process itself. And at the very end, we're going to wrap up with questions that you all can submit here in the YouTube live chat feature to my left, right, on that side of the screen, essentially, where you can be submitting questions throughout the program, and we'll do our best to answer as many of those throughout the hour as we can. Of course, there's other ways to be learning about Northwestern, including following all of our different social media channels and reaching out to your admissions officer whose contact information you can find out on the admissions website here at admissions.northwestern.edu. So with that, let's dive into our program for today a little bit. So one of the first things I always like to discuss when talking about Northwestern is our location, because ultimately where you go to school is going to have a huge impact on what your college experience is going to be like. And at Northwestern, we like to say we have a real trifecta because not only do you have a beautiful lakefront campus, but then you also are located in a fantastic college town like Evanston, and then you're just the north neighbor of one of the largest cities in the US, Chicago. And it's really those 3 parts that make the Northwestern education what it is, in my opinion. As you can see on the slide here, we're just 3 miles north of the Chicago city limits, but you're going to really spend a large amount of your time at Northwestern on our campus. Campus itself is just a mile-long stretch of real estate right in Evanston, right on Lake Michigan. State-of-the-art facilities in terms of classrooms, research labs, residential halls, dining halls, rec centers, you name it. There's never been a better time to come to Northwestern than the present. I can say that as an alum who's seen tremendous infrastructure updates and creation here over the last decade. Evanston, though, is our quintessential college town where you're going to be possibly living during your time at Northwestern. If you decide to move off campus, traditionally students will stay on campus for at least 2 years. And then they'll move off campus more often than not, wanting to kind of gain that next level of independence. Evanston is considered the cuisine capital of the North Shore, has wonderful nature, paths along the lake, cultural spaces like the Baha'i Temple northwest of campus, about a 15-minute walk. But then also we have the city of Chicago, like I said, right at our doorstep, which I think really amplifies the Northwestern academic experience, not only from a pre-professional standpoint, but also from just a cultural and authentic way to learn about the world. Coming from a 40-person village like I did prior to Northwestern, I was incredibly intimidated by the city of Chicago. But as I went through my time at Northwestern and explored the city, trying different restaurants, exploring different communities, whether it was through volunteering or just exploring with friends on the weekends, Chicago really opened up my own eyes to the world in a way that it's really hard to capture on a college campus. You know, you can go study abroad at most colleges around the country, but being able to tap into the many resources and opportunities that a city like Chicago provides, I think really makes the Northwestern education a special thing. And what are some of your favorite things to do around the city or in Evanston when you have free time pre-pandemic?
Oh my gosh, this is a great question. So I do think Evanston has like everything a college student could desire. Like we have a Target within walking distance, which for my small town brain was like a big shocker. But we also have a huge local vibrant business community. And I do think Evanston has it all. But like Fritz said, Chicago is phenomenal. My favorite way to take advantage of the city is through something that I call and days. So when I just need some time alone, I hop on the L and I head straight for the Art Institute. I explore the world famous paintings and sculptures, and then I take a walk in Millennium Park, say hello to the Bean, and treat myself to dinner. So in addition to and days, Chicago has so much to offer our students, from internships to an amazing food scene, to just like really amazing community involvement opportunities, as Fritz said. And I totally agree that Northwestern's location really stands out. It really is perfectly situated in a beautiful college town while also having the resources and access of a huge city.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Anne. So as we kind of transition now more to the kind of the fundamental side of Northwestern, let's talk a little bit about who we are. What is campus, all that good jazz. So first thing, when we talk about Northwestern, I like to really step back and talk about what I believe college is. So when I go out prior to the pandemic, when I would go and recruit students around the country, the one of the one of the lessons I'd always try to impart is that college is is one of the first times in most students' lives where you're able to pick your people. Up to now, most students in high school are going to school where you've grown up or where your parents have jobs. You're not exactly often, unless you go to boarding school typically, are getting to choose the types of community that you're going to surround yourself with. So I really think as you all begin or are in this admissions process, I really think it's important to prioritize the people you want to surround yourself with, because ultimately it's going to be the people, not any specific place, that's going to define your college career. I think there's a misdirected focus on prestige, on rankings, on a lot of that stuff in this process. And really, at the end of the day, you want to go to a college campus where you're going to be surrounded by people who not only you feel comfortable, but who are also going to push you to think about the world and think about your passions in new ways. That's really what a college education is at its best, in my opinion. So when we talk about people at Northwestern, the first thing we like to really talk about is the different perspectives that you're going to encounter on campus. So as you guys can see here on the slide, we have students from all 50 states and more than 95 countries from around the world. So we're covering a lot of different geographical backgrounds, but beyond that, we're also really focused on bringing different racial perspectives, ethnic perspectives, socioeconomic perspectives, whether you have different political, religious points of view. Maybe you're from an urban location or a rural location like I was. We want to make sure that campus is cultivated with different minds, different beliefs, and different perspectives, really, at the end of the day, where you're going to be able to engage with one another on topics that you have shared interests, but maybe come at from different points of view. That's really what we're trying to cultivate with every class that we admit. And one of the ways we really try to cultivate those types of conversations is by really keeping the class sizes as small as we can. So we really aim to have the vast majority of classes 20 students or fewer at Northwestern. Only about 3% of the classes you take at Northwestern are going to be in like 100, 150 person plus lecture halls. Anything that really exceeds 30 to 40 people is going to be broken down into a discussion section where you'll then meet outside of the primary class time with either the professor, another professor in the department, or a graduate teaching assistant who wants to go on to become a professor, and discuss the material with a smaller group of people. So you're making sure you're staying on top of the material, but also get to have those more in-depth conversations where you can kind of really critically think and analyze the material that you're learning about, whether it's biochem, art history, or theater, just to name a couple there. Is there anything you want to talk about in terms of people at Northwestern, Anne?
I think you really covered it, but I agree with you. The idea of you really get to choose your community kind of for the first time in your life, and what an impactful experience just the community and the different people at Northwestern have had on me and everyone I know here.
Perfect. Yeah, so the other way that we really try to make sure that you're meeting as many people as you can at Northwestern is by taking as many classes as you kind of can while you're in college. So at Northwestern, we operate on the quarter system, which really allows our students, in our opinion, a really vibrant way to take a ton of different classes and explore so many different fields of study. At most colleges and universities you may be considering, they operate on the traditional semester schedule. So instead of having 2 academic terms a year at Northwestern, we do offer 4. Now, students aren't going to school year round though. Most do take the 4th quarter, that summer quarter, off. But students are pretty often enrolled in the other 3, fall, winter, and spring quarters. Each are about 10 to 11 weeks and are often taking 4 classes per quarter. So if you end up doing the math over the course of your 4 years at Northwestern, most students end up taking 20% more classes than they would on the traditional semester schedule. And that's what really allows a lot of our interdisciplinary learning to take place. A couple of years ago, the university released a slogan that says, "And is in our DNA." While it's a really corny palindrome, I'll be the first to admit, it really does speak to the student experience at Northwestern. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because I know Anne's going to talk a little bit more about that in just a bit. But I want to make sure that everyone's aware that the quarter system is a really unique part of the Northwestern academic experience and really lends itself to our students to explore all 6 of our undergraduate colleges that you see here. The largest of which is the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences that houses our humanities, social science, and STEM majors. Then we have the McCormick School of Engineering that really houses all of our different engineering programs, whether it's mechanical engineering, biomedical, you name it. Then we also have the School of Communication that's produced some of our most famous alums, folks like Seth Meyers and Stephen Colbert of late night television fame, Heather Headley of Broadway, all got their start in the School of Comm. The Bean School of Music is our conservatory on campus. The School of Education and Social Policy is designed for students who want to make an impact in the classroom or in the policymaking sphere. And then last but certainly not least is the Medill School of Journalism, Media, and Integrated Marketing Communications that produces students who want to either report the news or really influence how media is consumed in the 21st century. If you end up deciding to apply to Northwestern, you're going to be asked to select one of these 6 schools on the screen here to apply directly to. Now, just because you decide, you want to come in and study economics within Weinberg doesn't mean you're going to get boxed in during your 4 years at Northwestern. If anything, we're going to push you to take classes from across all 6 schools. So you're going to have the opportunity to double major, with something like economics and communication studies within the School of Comm quite easily, thanks to our graduation requirements and the curriculum from those schools, but also the quarter system. And are there any ways that you've seen the 6-school structure really lend itself to students, either through your own time or through your friends?
Absolutely. So while my major is in the McCormick School of Engineering, I have happily taken advantage of all of the other schools on campus as well. So actually for my engineering electives, I took classes you might not expect from a typical engineer, such as painting, social inequality, gender and language, and even cartography, which is the mapping of uncharted territories. The flexibility and encouragement to take classes in other schools was something that really stood out to me in my application process. So Northwestern has been the perfect place for someone like me whose interests range anywhere from fine art to best manufacturing methods. So whatever school or subject interests you, or if it all interests you, you can explore it through your Northwestern education. So my friend Emily is passionate about the intersection of business and technology. And like really, if you ask her what she's passionate about, she will say the intersection of business and technology. She also loves Roger Federer, but we can save that for another time. Emily had never taken a coding class in high school, but she was always interested in the intersection of technology and engineering. So she applied to Northwestern as a computer science major in McCormick. She had no idea what the shape of her academic path would be, but her first coding assignment, she was hooked. She loved the mathematical theories behind it and getting into the nitty-gritty of why everything worked. And Emily loves knowing how things work from a technical perspective, but she also loves knowing how they work from a business perspective. So Emily's sophomore year, she joined the Kellogg certificate program, where she was able to take econ and finance-oriented classes and dive deeper into the world of business through our phenomenal business school, Kellogg. With her major and certificate, Emily was able to hone this interest in and identify she wanted to sit right at that intersection of technology and business, both in her education and also in her post-grad life. And you might sense a key theme here. If you're interested in the intersection of blank and blank, Northwestern is a phenomenal place for you. But student stories like these might be getting ahead of ourselves, since you'll begin at the beginning. At the start of your Northwestern journey, there are tons of resources to support you, however sure or unsure you are of what you want to study. So my friend Pravika came into Northwestern knowing exactly what she wanted to study. She had taken engineering classes in high school and loved the work that she was doing, so she applied to McCormick, which is our School of Engineering. And it was important to Pravika that she chose a school where she could do both engineering and everything else that made her special as well. In addition to her engineering degree, Pravika decided to keep up with her high school theater skills and added a theater minor. She also added a design certificate through our Siegel School of Design, which even took her to San Francisco, a program she learned about where she applied, where she studied the design process at Northwestern San Francisco campus and really got to know the city and the design process. Now, Pravika has accepted a job working at Accenture Federal and is so excited to move to DC and apply the design process that she learned in McCormick, and perhaps throw in a monologue or two. While Pravika knew exactly what she wanted to study, some of us don't, and that's totally fine. We're all in a place of discovery. So our joke with my sophomore year roommate, Sarah, is, what major are you today? Sarah came into Northwestern 3 years ago knowing she wanted to be in a position to help people, but she didn't know exactly how. She applied to Northwestern in our most popular major for undergraduate students, undecided. After a few months, Sarah fell in love with her psychology classes and decided to switch to Weinberg to do pre-med. She got all the way through organic chemistry, but she knew pre-med wasn't quite the right fit. She then switched into our School of Education and Social Policy, but something still wasn't right. Sarah realized that what she loved most was her work interacting with patients at the nursing home where she volunteered. She talked to career advising and realized that this was a job. She could be a PA. In addition to being a full-time student, Sarah now works at the Evanston Hospital as a CNA and has even been my physical therapy aide, helping me smile through the pain. Being a physician's assistant gives Sarah more flexibility in her career while letting her do what she loves most, which is helping people. The resources and opportunities at Northwestern guided Sarah to do what she loves. And no matter where you are on your path at Northwestern, faculty and advisors can be a great resource, like they were for Sarah and so many others. Like my freshman year DTC professor, who I regularly consult for career and life advice, or my mechanical engineering advisor, who, when he isn't consulting on the scientific accuracy of Battlestar Galactica, is encouraging me to take classes in the art program. As Fritz mentioned, my experience with professors is not unique. Our 6-to-1 student to faculty ratio allows every student the opportunity to interact with our phenomenal professors. And all classes are actually taught by professors, and most are under 20 people. If students need a little extra help navigating Northwestern, and we all do at one point, there's so many resources available, like ASLA, or the Academic Support and Learning Advancement Offices. As a peer coach through ASLA, I meet one-on-one with students to talk about strategies for success, plan schedules, and generally figure out how to navigate this whole college thing. Other services that ASLA offers include peer-guided study groups and drop-in tutoring, which are all led by students who have taken those classes and excelled. ASLA really has a person-first, student-second attitude that I find really productive, and it's reflected in all of the wonderful student resources on campus. And the student resources on campus, like professors, advisors, ASLA, and so many others, will help you navigate your own academic pursuit. So to allow both a deep dive and an interdisciplinary pursuit, you navigate, your studies will be broken into 3 key areas: your major, your liberal arts core, yes, even for engineers, and your electives. This may sound like a lot of other schools that you're looking at, but here's the difference. At Northwestern, you're choosing every single one of these courses. We don't have a standard set of required coursework like general education or a common core. Combine this with the flexibility of the quarter system, this leaves a ton of wiggle room to explore new areas and take intellectual risks. And learning doesn't just happen inside the classroom. So at Northwestern, Fritz, if you can change the slide, thank you. So at Northwestern, we love undergraduate research, and students get involved in all kinds of it. In fact, Northwestern reserves $3.5 million just for undergraduate research alone. And my favorite part about this is that this research looks different for every student. So like my friend Becca, who worked at the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab in downtown Chicago and studied how social factors affect COVID-19 outcomes. So if, like Becca, lab research is your thing, we totally have that for you. But if you're interested in exploring something outside the lab, we have that for you as well. So like my roommate Monica, who is analyzing Reddit data to determine the correlation between social media and opioid addiction. In addition to Annika's computer science major, she also is a dance minor. Last year, she even participated in a research-funded jazz nutcracker, which explored the relationship between jazz music and dance improvisation. In addition to research, Northwestern students expand their horizons even further and go abroad, with nearly a third of our students going abroad. Like my friend Salam, who I missed a lot, while she studied abroad as a mechanical engineer in London at Queen Mary's College. Salam took mechie classes like aerospace, while also taking history and architecture classes, which took her all around the historical sites and museums of London. Salam really got engaged in the culture and felt like a local when she started picking up new British slang from her flatmates. This was Salam's first time going abroad, and she was determined to make the most of it. Every weekend was an opportunity to travel and explore new places. Her highlights were chasing the sunset while hiking King Arthur's Seat, eating gelato by the Venice canals, and drinking mint tea in the middle of the Moroccan desert. And I want to read her travel blog too. Her experience abroad was unforgettable, and she cannot wait to go back. Research and abroad are just some ways that our students expand their learning, but innovation centers are another great example. So Northwestern is constantly supporting students' innovative ideas. My friend Peter came to Northwestern ready to hit the ground running. As a first-year student, he participated in Launch, which is a 10-week startup incubator program. There he founded Litterbox, which is a student-run summer storage company for Northwestern students. The next quarter, Peter and his teammates turned to the garage at Northwestern, which is our Silicon Valley-esque business incubator program, and they helped him build out his business model. There, Litterbox got connected with a mentor who is an executive at Grubhub who gave great insights to campus marketing. With his help, they launched, and their first summer, Litterbox had nearly 100 customers, making pretty good money and gaining great hands-on experience. The next year, though, Litterbox wanted to get even bigger, and they were connected with another mentor, this time in the grocery delivery business. With their operations guidance, Litterbox more than doubled their customers in just 1 year, and more importantly, gained a ton of experience in leadership and business opportunities. The garage gave Peter the space to grow his entrepreneurial skills and get hands-on experience that helped him secure internships at P&G and Tesla. He also developed an incredible network of mentors, professors, other student entrepreneurs, and most adorably, friends. And while we love a good entrepreneurial success story at Northwestern, we also love the arts. In addition to the garage, we also have groups like Studio 22, which provide funding for innovative student films. Basically, whatever you're interested in innovating, they're not only resources, but also cheerleaders to support you along the way. So Northwestern, next slide, please. I'm gonna do some water.
Well,
Okay.
go ahead, Ann, and feel free to hydrate. I'm gonna just hop in here real quick and give you a quick break because I see we're getting several questions in here about how you kind of can hop between different schools and double major. So I just kind of want to touch base on that before we continue on into the realm of internships. So the way it kind of works at Northwestern, like I mentioned, is you may be coming from a place where you have a clear idea what you want to do, or you might be undecided and you want to try different things. Makes no difference to us. When you apply to Northwestern, though, we do ask that you pick one major. For students that are actually interested in two different majors at Northwestern, my best piece of advice is to figure out which area you want to hit the ground running with most. So let's say you want to double major with, let's say, biological sciences and journalism. All right. If you want to, do journalism, I would recommend applying directly to journalism and easily adding the biological science double major. Because if you end up applying to your double majors are Weinberg and another smaller school, you're going to end up being put into the smaller school for graduation requirements because Weinberg makes up essentially half of the Northwestern student body, and their curriculum requirements are flexible enough that they pretty much overlap with any of the 5 smaller schools. So if you have a double major interest in mind, my recommendation is to apply to the said smaller school. Now, let's say you get here and discover you want to double major and you're pursuing English and you'd like to do something, let's say biomedical engineering as you go through Northwestern. It's really just going to more often than not require you to fill out some paperwork, submit that to the registrar's office, get a few signatures from the necessary departments, bada boom, bada bing. The only programs that it's going to be really tricky to transfer into at Northwestern are going to be the theater cohort because there's a cap each year for that cohort. And then the Bean School of Music because there's an audition process for any of those performance studios. Switching into any of the other programs at Northwestern is going to be relatively easily. The other thing that I want to touch on really quick is our dual degree process. So for students who are interested in 2 different subject areas in 2 of the smaller schools, say you want to do theater and computer science within McCormick, their graduation requirements don't overlap as well, and more often than not will require 5 years of study. If you go on to our website at admissions.northwestern.edu, you can see all the different kind of ways to apply for like dual degree or a double major, and we try and outline it all there pretty easily for you. Hopefully my counterpart can also drop in the link to the registrar's office here, where she can then direct you to see what kind of programs are also for dual degree students as well. So hopefully that clarifies a little. We'll drop some more links here to help address those questions, but keep them coming. And I'll toss it back to Ann right now.
Yeah, thank you for that water break. And that was all really great information. So we're starting to talk about internships, and Northwestern is a great place to grow personally and intellectually, but also to advance your career. So these applied learning opportunities are layered throughout the support structures at Northwestern and are sometimes even built into our curriculum. In fact, almost 70% of Northwestern students reporting having an internship during their time at Northwestern. For some students, this can even look like going abroad, like my friend Val, who worked abroad at Bain in Spain. At her internship, she was working directly with clients, all while having the opportunity to explore Madrid. She loved her experience so much that she continued with consulting and had traded a job at Bain in Spain for a job in Bain in Chicago for after graduation. And I told y'all Chicago was really cool. Northwestern also supports students financially and academically in their academic pursuits. Last summer, my friend Larissa went to San Francisco to do her practicum, which is the internship that is built into the CESP curriculum. Larissa worked at the Gabby Gifford Law Center in San Francisco as an advocate for gun reform in Congress. So in addition to receiving academic credit, Larissa was also supported by the Summer Internship Grant Program, or SIGP. This grant program gave Larissa the freedom to not have to choose between an internship that she loved and an internship that paid her. Larissa loved her experience in policy reform and interned a little closer to home in the UK this summer in Parliament. She plans to work for the UK government after graduation, and I fully expect her to be the Prime Minister one day. So I know as a prospective college student, full-time can feel like pretty far away, but I think if there are any parents on this call, they'll be glad to know that 96% of the class of 2019 were pursuing meaningful postgraduate plans 6 months out. This is a testament both to the amazing quality of education we get from Northwestern, but also the great support we have for career development. I know I can always talk to a career counselor, whether I have no idea where to start or I'm balancing offers. Our students wind up at a variety of really respected organizations around the world, and we get a taste of what they're up to on the next slide.
Yeah, as Anne just said, like our students are interning and then getting hired at phenomenal companies around the world, largely thanks to the work that Northwestern Career Advancement is doing, but also all the different internship requirements built into several of our schools' curriculums, whether it's the journalism residency, the Chicago Field Studies program within the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences, practicums, co-ops, you name it. At the end of the day, we recognize that a lot of students are going to college because they want to get a great job upon graduation. And we want to make sure that our students are not only getting that creative, thoughtful education where you're really learning to engage in deep conversations and perspectives, but we also want to make sure that there's tangible outcomes. So as you see here, we have partnerships essentially with all of these programs to make sure our students have the opportunity to at least intern, if not end up getting hired at these programs. The number of job fairs and internship fairs that NCA coordinates on campus, I can't speak highly enough of the work that that office does. And they are always eager to engage with current students, whether you're a senior looking at what's next or starting at Northwestern in your freshman year. They're even willing to have conversations with prospective students as you kind of figure out where you are in your own professional goals. So definitely a wonderful resource, because ultimately we want to make sure that not only do you have great prep for your career, but you end up having a lot of success as a Northwestern alum. Here you see just a few famous faces of the Purple Mafia, as we like to dub ourselves here at Northwestern. But know that you don't have to be famous to be an incredible Northwestern alum. The Purple Mafia is scattered across the globe with really passionate alumni chapters in major metropolitan areas. When I lived in DC after I graduated, I really found a wonderful community there in that alumni chapter. Back in Chicago here now, I'm very active, obviously being so close to the university, but whether you're out on the West Coast, on the East Coast, in the South, in other parts of the Midwest, or around the globe, it's pretty hard to go too far without finding another Northwestern alum. And I think one thing that's really valuable about Northwestern alumni is their determination to give back. whether it's through mentorship, through advice, whether they answer just random emails from current students who find them on LinkedIn, Northwestern alums are really passionate about supporting current Wildcats and young alums as they try to get their foot in the door in the real world. I can't tell you the number of classmates I had that got their first job thanks to a Northwestern alum. Whether it was here in Chicago, on the East Coast, in LA, at Hollywood, you name it. So just know that when you come through Northwestern, you're joining a incredibly invested family in a way that, you know, for coming from a small town, I was kind of familiar with, but the vast stretch of this alumni network, I think can't be understated enough. So with that, we're going to transition now to hopefully a little bit more light material and talk a little bit more about the people, the community, the student life experience that's going to be so much of a part of your Northwestern experience if you decide to come here. So with that, I'm going to toss it back to the current student.
Thank you. And yes, just to reiterate, I am job hunting right now, and I am so thankful for that Northwestern alumni network. And so the Northwestern community starts when you get to Northwestern. And one of my favorite expressions of this is through our dorm system. So all Northwestern students will live on campus for 2 years, while some may choose to live on all 4. Residence halls are just one example of how Northwestern fosters a campus community. So between Sunday night cider, late night munchies, or even a boat formal on the Chicago River, dorms are always creating points of connections for students. You can even get involved in dorm student leadership, like my friend Cami, and plan said boat formal. I think the fact that I'm still best friends with 3 women I met the first day I moved into the Elder 3rd floor is really a testament to the strength of our housing system. And I know you all were wishing you were on our beautiful campus right now, but just to get a taste of what it's like, we have residential hall videos on our YouTube channel. Also a ton of great resources. Highly recommend checking that out right now. And so I would talk a little bit about kind of the traditions at Northwestern, because I also think that's a phenomenal expression of our community here. Northwestern is full of so many wonderful traditions, like our week-long orientation program and a rock that we lovingly camp out for 24 hours just to paint a message on. I dare you to Google Rockham Northwestern. My favorite part of Northwestern is just a little bit funny, but it's very, very Northwestern. So every quarter, the Sunday before finals week at exactly 8 p.m., every student, no matter if you're off campus or in the quietest section of the library, every student lets out one giant primal scream, and I love it. It reminds me to take a break and laugh, and I think it is so representative of Northwestern's culture in general. We work hard, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. In addition to our traditions, student organizations are just another big part of the undergraduate experience and just one other way that students create community on campus. Next slide, thank you. So there's not one way to do Northwestern. What we respect in our community is that you're engaging with those areas that interest you, and I promise your classmates will cheer you on along the way. So beyond our collaborative academic culture, Northwestern also has over 500 student organizations. So my friend Ashanika is the co-director of Mayfest. And Mayfest puts on this show every year called Dilla Day, which is the largest student-run music festival in the country. It is simply phenomenal. Our president, Morty, even shuts down all the libraries so every student will take part in the fun. The concert is right on the Lakeville, and some of the past artists include Chance, Daya, and Kendrick Lamar. And if cars are your thing, oh my gosh, do we have that for you. My friend Tucci, along with just about every other engineer I know, helps build fully functional cars and race them in Formula, which is just one of 3 car building teams on campus. These, along with the other 500 organizations that we have, no doubt do incredible things, like putting on the largest student-run music festival in the country or building fully functional cars from scratch. but they also encourage connection and camaraderie among our students. If you ask any senior what they will miss most about Northwestern, I guarantee you they will say the people.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Anne. So we got a question here towards the end of Anne's spiel here that I think would be just great to address before we dive into the admissions and financial aid component of the program today. So Anne, I'm going to throw this right back at you. So get hydrated. What are some traits that differentiate a Northwestern student from other students on other campuses?
This is a great question. I think one thing, the most common word I hear to describe Northwestern students is passionate. And I think Northwestern students are truly passionate, which is not necessarily unique, but they also are phenomenal cheerleaders. So like my friend Annika, who is a computer science major, she has friends who are in her computer science major who come to her dance shows because they think it is so cool that Annika is so passionate about dance. They don't really care that much about dance, but they think it's so cool that Annika is so passionate about dance. I think that's what really sets Northwestern apart, is we're passionate, but we think everything else that people are passionate about is really cool. And just that sense of community and like that lack of kind of competitiveness, because everyone is just in awe of all of the phenomenal things that everyone's working on. So passionate, but also cheerleaders.
100% agreed. From my time in undergrad, I was really shocked at that level of investment that Northwestern students have in one another's activities and in their studies and their other interests. There's so much going on campus, and yet students carve out the time to make time for their peers, whether it's just close friends or classmates or other things happening around campus that they just are remotely interested in. You know, football players busy every Saturday in the fall, the student body's out there supporting and cheering them on. Those same fellas are out at different theater performances, a cappella performances, race car competitions, you name it. So it's just really cool to see, as Anne was saying, the level of support and investment in one another within the student body here at Northwestern. So with that, let's talk about how to become a member of the Northwestern student body. So how to apply to Northwestern. When we discuss the admissions process at Northwestern, it's important to recognize that we first off utilize a holistic review method, which means there's not going to be one piece that makes or breaks your application to the university. We're going to look at a variety of different pieces, all outlined here on this slide, and use those within our decision making to ensure that we're having students that will be able to come together from those different perspectives and create this dynamic campus community. So when we're reviewing applicants, we're not going to just look at your academic performance. We're not just going to look at your activities. We're not just going to look at your letters of recommendation or your writing samples. We're going to look at all of that. And we're going to think about how you as an individual will add or what you can bring to our campus. So to do that, the first thing we have to do is consider context. We need to learn to understand what your educational environment looks like. What type of opportunities have you been surrounded by and able to take advantage of? Because that often really determines a lot of what folks are able to achieve while they're in high school. So to do that, we're going to start off and we're going to review your high school profile that's submitted by your high school counselor. That's going to outline the different classes offered, different activities, student body makeup, all that information. So the first thing we get is a really good understanding of what your educational environment looks like. Then we're going to look at your high school transcript and we're going to see what classes you chose to take out of those offered and get a pretty good idea of your rigor and your performance right off the bat. This year and next application cycle, we are test optional. So if you've already taken the SAT or the ACT and you feel really good about your score, feel free to submit it. If you haven't been able to, don't stress about it if you aren't able to take it before our application deadlines here next fall or next winter. There's plenty of time between now and then, but don't let the standardized test score cause you great anxiety in submitting your application. Essentially, what I always advise students in this test optional environment is if you feel really strong about your academic performance in high school and feel it reflects your actual ability, if you want to submit the test score as a cherry on top, that's fine. But don't feel you need to necessarily prop up a really strong academic record with a test score. Now, if you feel that it would bolster your academic record, feel free to submit it as well. But don't let the SAT or ACT scare you in a way that makes you stress about needing to take it, especially during this really challenging time that we're living through. All right. Then we're going to look at your activities. We're going to see what types of leadership roles you've had inside and outside of school. We're going to look at letters of recommendation. We ask for 2 at Northwestern, usually one from a counselor, one from a teacher, more than sufficient beyond that. Then the last thing we're going to look at are those application essays. We're going to ask for the personal statement that's built into the common application or the coalition application. It's like 600 to 700 words, variety of prompts. Essentially, we want you to be able to really convey your voice through your writing and just talk about something that's really important to you. It can be an important lesson you've learned. It can be, an experience you've had. You can write about essentially anything. But my best piece of advice is to keep it focused. Because sometimes I think students try to convey all of who they are in that essay, and they end up not necessarily differentiating themselves as much as they would think in the broader pool. So if you keep it focused and convey your voice well and write within your own abilities, you're going to be putting your best foot forward. Then we're going to ask for a second essay that's going to be strictly for Northwestern that asks, why do you want to attend Northwestern University? It's a very common prompt among other schools within our peer set. Any school that asks that type of question wants the same thing, substantive detail. What specifically about our institution is prompting you to apply? I think a lot of students, sometimes if they end up applying to a lot of schools, get a little lazy, and instead of just taking the time to knock out a 200 to 300 word statement about what really interests you in Northwestern, they'll try and write a template and then just kind of do the Mad Lib approach where they'll swap in proper nouns and adjectives. And you can do that, but it often won't stand out in our pool. You're much better off taking the time to just, write the 200 to 300 words specifically about Northwestern. And if you have a hard time writing it and you don't get excited about it, that might also be an indicator that maybe you shouldn't be applying to Northwestern if you can't get yourself excited to write about it. I think that's just a really good thought to have as you go through this process. If you're just applying to as many schools as possible, you're going to be doing yourself a real disservice because all this takes a lot of time. It's been a while since I applied to undergrad, but you want to make sure that you're covering your bases. You have your reach, your target, and your safety schools, but you don't want to overwhelm yourself with the work you're having to do to apply to college. Because again, at the end of the day, everyone, college is just going to be one step along your educational journey. It is not going to define who you will become. All right. When we're reviewing applicants like we are right now at Northwestern, we see tens of thousands of highly qualified students applying. But at the end of the day, there's 2,000 undergrads per class. So we have to, unfortunately, deny highly, highly competitive students within our pool because there's just not enough space. And that doesn't mean that we don't think you wouldn't be successful at Northwestern, but we're just trying at the end of the day to make sure we're admitting students that want to be at Northwestern more than anywhere else, but also make sure that we're admitting students who we feel are going to bring something to our community that will elevate the level of discourse and prompt really deep and meaningful conversations. So at the end of the day, whether you get in or you don't get in, do not let any admission decision boost your ego or diminish your self-worth. Because as long as you work hard, work well with other people, and take advantage of new opportunities that come across your path, you're going to be successful. Whether you go to Northwestern University here in Evanston or Northwestern College in Orange City, Iowa. All right. So when the time comes to apply, you're going to want to decide you want to apply via our early decision process or our regular decision process. Early decision is the binding application where if you apply to school via ED and you're admitted, you'll be required to withdraw all other outstanding applications and attend that institution. It's a process that, like I said a little earlier, is designed for students who have a clear-cut number one school and know where they want to go more than anywhere else. If Northwestern's one of many schools and doesn't really separate itself from the pack, that's fine too. Feel free to apply via regular decision. Now, one of the biggest challenges with determining, like I said, who wants to come to Northwestern versus those who just want to see if they can get in, really forces us to rely on the early decision pool in a larger way over the last several years. So like many other schools like Northwestern, we are admitting about half the incoming class via our early decision process. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily easier. There's a higher admission rate for sure. But in terms of the academic caliber, the activities, the leadership, the letters of recs, the writing ability, the students we admit in early are every bit as competitive as those as we admit in regular decision. But we, at the end of the day, like I said, want to have students who are as passionate about being here as anywhere. So one of the big factors that comes into play then in determining do you want to apply via ED or RD is financial aid. Let's talk a little bit about that. First thing to know about financial aid at Northwestern, we only offer need-based financial aid. Given the academic caliber of the students we're admitting, it gets a little political to determine who deserves what merit-based aid. So instead of trying to get into that realm, we really try to allocate our financial aid dollars to improving the socioeconomic diversity of our campus. And as you see here, a large majority of students are receiving financial aid here, almost 2/3 at Northwestern. And this year alone, we set aside over $200 million to support our undergrads as they attend Northwestern, all right? We guarantee that we're gonna meet 100% of demonstrated need. So whatever number we feel your family can't afford to pay, we're gonna cover 100% with scholarships, grants, and work study. As of about 5-6 years ago, we went loan free. So if you applied with Northwestern and you're admitted with financial aid, it's very possible that after 4 years, you could be walking away with $0 in debt, as long as you are able to cover that out-of-pocket amount with whatever you want. Loans can be included if you want to cover some of that, depending on your financial background, but just know the initial financial aid package does not include loans because we try to meet your demonstrated need 100% from our financial aid office. So any questions you have about our financial aid process, I would definitely direct you to our financial aid office. We also have 2 really great calculators that help you get good estimates of what it would cost you to attend Northwestern. The net price calculator that my counterpart will drop here in the YouTube chat shortly is going to give you a really accurate estimate. If you fill it out, it just takes some kind of basic tax information, plug that in, and it'll spit you out a pretty good estimate. And then there's also something that's called the My Intuition calculator that's going to be a little bit broader, not going to be as accurate, but it'll give you a good range of what you would be expected to pay if you were to attend Northwestern. All right. So that was a lot of information, I'm well aware. And we have about 5 minutes left to get through some of this Q&A. So let's dive in here, Anne. I'm going to throw the first question at you. Let's see what we got here. Oh, you can definitely, I think, answer this one. What ways do Northwestern students who aren't majoring in music or arts get involved in the performing arts scene at Northwestern?
So this is a great question. And I was actually in my kind of admission cycle applying to art schools and engineering schools. So this is something I did a ton of research on, applying to schools. So one thing that I love about Northwestern is that students really do have that flexibility to take classes in all of the different schools. But another really phenomenal part of Northwestern is our club culture is really vibrant and really top notch. So there are a ton of students who participate in things like musicals or plays or even dance shows, and they have no experience at the Northwestern dance community beyond just that kind of extracurricular community. So there's definitely that kind of structured, like anyone can sign up for an art class, or there are lots of music classes that are available to non-music majors. But also in this kind of club atmosphere which we have such a vibrant community in, there also are opportunities for everyone to get involved in arts. So again, my roommate Annika is always doing dance shows, but I have friends who are engineering students who produce our improv shows. So people get involved in all kind of ways. And I think it's really a great community if you're interested in the arts and something else as well.
Yeah, just from an admissions perspective, I can't tell you how many students I see that are involved in choir, in band, in theater, in speech or debate, a variety of the performing arts in high school. And although they may not be necessarily majoring in theater or music performance, they absolutely find ways, whether it's in one of our 15 a cappella groups or working backstage in theater as a non-major. There are so many ways. I was in marching band during my 4 years at Northwestern, so there are countless ways, even if you aren't necessarily pursuing trumpet performance, to get involved there as well. Another great question here. What does a typical weekend look like for a student at Northwestern?
So one thing that I love about Northwestern is I feel like there's no typical anything, which I think is really nice. But I will say one thing is a typical non-COVID weekend for me, well, just like a general weekend, like I alluded to, I love going into the city. Sometimes I do it alone, sometimes I drag my friends with me, but maybe your Friday night will be dinner in the city. Sometimes Northwestern even has free tickets to shows. So I've even been to like Les Mis and Dear Evan Hansen and just like hop on a bus with Northwestern and that's my Friday night and it's phenomenal. Let's say Saturday morning, maybe you have some group meetings, maybe you have some projects, maybe you, like me, love to go on kind of ridiculously long walks and look at really beautiful houses in Evanston and Wilmette. So maybe that's your Saturday morning. Saturday night, there's probably a ton of dance and theater and all kind of shows going on. My favorite Saturday night, actually my 21st birthday, was at Refusion Shaka, which is just the most hilarious, fun dance show. Our dance community at Northwestern is really vibrant. And so it's 3 student groups get together and throw this huge dance show and it's just phenomenal. I'd say Sundays are typically work days for Northwestern students. Usually maybe you can start it with a brunch or a bagel, and then usually a lot of like student club meetings, all kind of like Sunday night dinners and all of that is really fun as well. But I would say usually your Friday and Saturday are up to you. And then usually your Sundays are club meetings, which are also very fun.
Yeah, no, the weekends are definitely going to be busy. But again, something to keep in mind when you're in college, you're not in school necessarily from 8 to 3. When you're in college, you might have 4 courses you're taking, and each of those meets for, maybe 3 to 4 hours a week. So you're only really in class for sometimes 15 to maybe 18 hours a week. So there's a lot of time where you're going to learn how to manage, and it won't necessarily, it'll get filled up. I have no doubts. That's something that I think Northwestern students really learn how to balance during their 4 years. I think some students come in raring to go and wanting to get really involved, and then they kind of learn how to maybe find a better balance for themselves. Make sure that they give themselves and days and go and just take time for themselves. Go for walks. You don't always have to have the busiest social or academic schedule either. When we say and is in our DNA, and can also include self-care and rest. So big proponent of both of those. So we're already at 2 p.m. Central here, so I'm not gonna talk too much longer here. I want us to wrap up, but I just want to give Anne one last parting word of wisdom for all of you students out there, whether you've already applied to Northwestern or if you're in just the starting stages of the admissions process.
Yes, my advice would be to have as much fun with this whole crazy process as is possible right now. And to really approach this all with an open mind. I think it's awesome that you're attending virtual info sessions, and keep doing that and keep exploring and really keep up with those things that you're passionate about, because I think that passion really shows in an application process. So keep it all up. You're doing great work. And I'm very, very proud of all the seniors who are getting through this year. So kudos to y'all.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Anne. And on behalf of the Northwestern Admissions Office, I just want to wish you all good health. Keep up the hard work. Make sure you're taking care of yourselves and your communities during this really turbulent time. I know these last 12 months have challenged every one of us in new and unique ways. And that's something that we are definitely keeping top of mind in our admissions process as well. Activities have been impacted, course offerings have been limited. Um, Everyone's just trying to kind of stay above water right now. We are as admissions reps, you are as students, your parents are as parents. So um, continue to, I think, take the lessons we've all learned in 2020 and now in 2021. Try to offer empathy and grace where you can. And keep in mind, like I said, this is all just one step along the long winding road. So with that, we wish you all the best. If you have further questions, feel free to reach out to us via any of these social media handles here, or via email on our website. You can find myself and my other colleagues there as well. Happy to answer your questions. If we're a bit delayed, forgive us. We're going through many applications right now. So again, patience and grace is always appreciated. But with that, take care of yourselves, take care of your families, your friends, your communities. Be well, and go Cats. Thank you all so much. Take care.